let's just completely shatter the myth of the starving artist.
Si agarra, camina, salsa mulata, camina, ay mamita caminando, camina, dale un poquito para acá, camina.
Hello, Common Sensester. Thank you so much for joining us as we do part 2 of my interview with Miata Edoga. Where are you from, first of all?
I was born in New York and I was raised in New Jersey, but I'm actually the first generation in this country. So my father was born and raised in Nigeria, and my mother is from Panama.
What made you decide you wanted to be an actress?
I definitely didn't really grow up thinking that this is what I would do. My parents made me learn piano, right? And I wasn't very good, and I really kind of suffered through that and suffered through practicing. But as a result of playing the piano, I started doing some singing, and I discovered that I really loved singing. And that then led to me going down the path of musicals. Wow. So I became a singer-dancer. I thought that I would, hopefully go to New York and be on Broadway. What happened was I went to college, and they really didn't, musical theater wasn't real theater.
Where did you go to college?
I went to Williams College in Williamstown, Massachusetts, and an incredible theater department. And I was blessed with some pretty incredible teachers early on in my college years. And so that was a transition that I would say didn't happen until my sort of early adulthood. And then I went to London and I trained at a conservatory there, fell in love with Shakespeare. And that was it. And when I returned to the States, I was cast in a play, and it just so happened that a director, John Frankenheimer, was in the audience. He ended up giving me my first small part in a film out here in LA. And so I came out, played that part, and I actually ended up meeting my husband on the film.
You're now in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. You're now pursuing your acting. How are you surviving?
I don't feel like I had this fantasy thinking. I knew I was going to have to work hard, and I just wasn't prepared for how to make a living. I realized pretty quickly that I wasn't working enough as an actor to pay my bills. But so I started getting day jobs, right? And it starts with one day job, and then that turns into 2 day jobs. And for me, at one point, it actually was 11 part-time jobs that I had at one time.
Here's where you sound Caribbean. Here's where you sound Caribbean. I had to take 45 jobs.
Exactly.
Because if you're not working a lot, you are not working.
You're not working. And you have to pay those bills. But I think in combination, it was that I was afraid to take anything that was remotely stable, right? Because, well, then how was I going to have time to keep pursuing my career and all of this stuff? And so I waited tables and I bartended and I catered and I worked at Starbucks and I tutored for the SATs and I babysat and I walked dogs, right? Because all of those you thought, well, at a moment's notice, I can up and go. But I really ended up just exhausted and honestly, Lydia, still broke. I was working all the time, but these jobs, it's like you can never count on how much you're going to earn, and a shift gets canceled or a student cancels, and they're not high paid jobs, and maybe you'll have good tips one day and then really bad tips the next week. So I was really, really struggling, and I got into a lot of credit card debt. I really hit a place that I would describe as rock bottom, where I felt like if I couldn't get a handle on my finances, I was going to have to quit. It was massively negatively affecting my pursuit of an acting career. I was cast in a musical down at the Redondo Beach Civic Light Opera, and I was also at the time waitressing at a hotel restaurant in West Hollywood. And the upshot is that I should have had plenty of time after my shift ended to get down, but to the show. But my replacement didn't show up. The manager made me wait for someone, and I didn't feel that I could just walk away because I really, really needed the money that I'd earned from that shift. And so I ended up getting to the theater 8 minutes before curtain. And that was truly, truly terrifying. Like any actor knows, an audience, I nearly missed a curtain. I mean, affecting an entire production because I was so out of control in terms of my finances. So yes, my replacement didn't show up and the manager at the restaurant was horrible, but that was 100% my responsibility. And so that was pretty devastating. And it was the place where I realized I had to make changes, or I had to stop pretending that I was really seriously an actor. But then I just decided I had to figure it out. Once we can wipe the tears, it's like, what's next, right? So I decided I had to learn. Like, I had to figure this money thing out. And I started reading books, and I started taking every free class I could find. Ultimately, I found some teachers that I feel like really changed my life. You know, as I learned, and I worked with one coach in particular who then, because I was able to make changes in my life and start paying back debt and all of that stuff, they ended up asking me if I wanted to train to coach for their company. And so that was the beginning of, oh, I could not only understand this for myself, but I could start to help other people. And then I coached for their company for maybe a little bit more than 2 years. And then I decided to start my own company. I started Abundance Bound specifically to help actors, artists, and creative professionals.
You're married,
Yes.
and you have 2 children,
Yes.
a girl 15 and a boy 10. You act, you do this curriculum. How do you balance life and still have a smile on your face?
All of those things that you just mentioned, all of them bring me joy. We are people who are up to a lot. And that's great. To me, it's what keeps life exciting. Sure, sometimes do I get overwhelmed or stressed out? Absolutely, right? Like anybody. But I do feel that while my life is incredibly busy, it's incredibly busy with things I love. Time management, right? You cannot separate it from money management, from life management, from spiritual management. Like, it's all connected. I think I have learned to become extremely focused on what my days need to look like and what it is I absolutely want to accomplish, because things move fast. Yeah.
Everything you're talking about requires discipline.
I think it requires discipline, but I think the mistake we sometimes make is we think we either have to have discipline or we have fun. Right? Either discipline or fun. And I completely and totally challenge people to really start questioning that assumption. So what I believe is that by having discipline, it actually allows me more fun. The more I fall off on the discipline, actually, the less fun I have. Because even when I'm taking downtime, I'm actually stressed out during that downtime because I'm thinking about all of the things that I feel like I should be doing. I don't believe that means we are all becoming robots and Miata goes from, gets up at 6 a.m. and at 6:15 she does this and then at 6:25. It's not that. It's just that I have real awareness of what my days look like and where the pockets are that I can do the things that matter.
What are 2 myths you want to break about creative life and finances?
Let's just completely shatter the myth of the starving artist, right? This idea that I have to starve, I have to be willing to suffer, to sacrifice everything if I want to be successful. I think that that's nonsense, and I think that it is keeping artists small. Tied to that is the idea that our money is separated from our art, right? That I'm over here focused on my art, and therefore this money thing has to be something just in the background because I don't want it to distract from my art. They are inextricably linked. And so rather than seeing money as this thing that I don't want to deal with or I have to deal with, see it as what actually supports everything that you love, not just your creativity, but your family, your relationships, your ability to make a difference in this world. Our relationship with money has to be one that we treasure and value, because by valuing it and treasuring it, we are also valuing and treasuring our art.
If you could do one role that's already been out there and just take it and make it yours, what would that role be?
I would love to be working on a nighttime drama, to play a role on Homeland, for instance, right? To work with those kinds of actors, that level of talent. I love all of the Shonda Land shows. I mean, my goodness.
Can't help but love Shonda.
Viola Davis is a force. To get to work with her and learn from her, so that would be
How to Get Away with
How to
Murder.
Get Away with Murder. So the list is probably long. It's these actors where I feel like they are doing work that just is up here. And I would love to have the opportunity to engage with them, to learn from them.
In theater, what role would you love to do?
I just read for the first time a play called Elizabeth the Queen. The language has the beauty of Shakespeare with just a touch more accessibility and ease. I would love to play that part. There's, a lot of Shakespeare that I'd love to do. I'd love to play Lady Macbeth at some point. Any of the August Wilson plays, A Raisin in the Sun, Ruth, the mom. I'm just getting to the place where I could start to be too old to play her, so I'd love to get that part in. But yeah, there are a bunch.
As an artist, as an entrepreneur, as a parent, there are times when you run out of energy. What do you do to get yourself back to center?
I rest. That to me is critical, and time by myself. I do have a daily meditation practice. I have a almost daily exercise practice, and all of that is great, but sometimes we're just exhausted. And for me, that may mean that I take 2 days where I just lie in bed and I binge watch Netflix and I write in my journal and I read novels, and I give myself the space to feel like I'm re-energized.
And do you have a favorite space that you like?
I really love my bed. My family jokes about this, like they really joke about it. They have given me wonderful, lovely silk pajamas that I can sort of spend my day in. Take me to an island with a wonderful beach and my books, and I'm in heaven. But that's not always practical or possible. Right. So for me, settling in for a day with my snacks and my computer and my novels and my comfortable bed and some nice PJs, I'm good.
As a child of immigrants, what ethics did your parents teach you that you still use today to center yourself?
Both of them really came from such hard conditions and came to this country and built not just futures for themselves, but for future generations. And so I feel what they taught me is that nothing is impossible, that you have to know what you want, and that then you have to be willing to go after that. Obviously, when I was growing up, there were times when, no, they're too strict, they're mean, they're, all of those things. But at the end of the day, my parents taught me to be passionate about my life. And I'm incredibly, incredibly grateful for that.